Alright, Sumari to everybody out there. You know who it is. It's Set, your multidimensional brother. I know, where have you been? You've been gone for a minute. But you know we're always connected either way. Yeah, man, it's been about a month since my last video. And a lot of things have been going on, man. A lot of things. Let's get to it. Now, as usual, shout outs to all my family out there. You know, even though we seem to be separated by, different countries and imaginary time zones and all these things, we're still always connected. Jessica, you know who you are. My sisters out there. Akatili Sumari. Everybody else, you guys know who all you guys are out there, man. Akatili Sumari, I don't know where you at, man. You've been missing for a minute. It's time for you to get back on these videos, brother. I know a lot of individuals want to know what have you come into? What knowledge have you gained through your practices? But, yeah, man. Now, let's get down to business. Now, on my Facebook, I had put a picture of my snake, Sumari, and this dog. And I wrote just wrote a little brief something. I wrote something like, Baron Samedi and Papa Legba both have been trying to get at me to work with them. And I said I was going to make a video about it, and I didn't. So, yeah, here's the video on that, man. Now, for those of you who don't know, I mean, look, I like individuals doing their own research, so you can get down, check out who is Papa Legba and who's Baron Samedi. But just to give you a very, very brief, insight, Papa Legba is one of the Loa spirits from the Voodoo pantheon of entities, and pretty much he opens the doors. He's a gatekeeper. He opens the doors. He speaks all languages. This is how he's known. Papa Legba speaks all the languages on the planet and all realities. And before you even deal with the Voodoo pantheon of spirits and entities, the Loa, you have to go through him first. You have to petition him because he's like the key, right? He's the gatekeeper. He's that middle individual entity, consciousness, that goes back and forth between the higher power, between the spirits, and between you. So before you even deal with anything going on in that realm, you have to go through him first. But on another note, this energy known as Papa Legba, that Papa Legba, see, I didn't want to do it, but I'm going to have to. I'm about to take you guys on another trip and give you some more things to meditate on. And I hope nobody gets offended by this, but I'm just breaking it down from my end of things and how I've seen it and come across it and how these things present themselves to me. So you hear a lot of individuals say that you don't choose Voodoo, Voodoo chooses you. And the same with some of the spirits in Loa, they choose you to work. You don't seek them out. If they want you to work with them, they'll contact you. So, this energy known as Papa Legba is much older than what people think it is. And it's actually something a little bit more complex than just he's the gatekeeper, which that is true on one level, but it goes so much deeper than that. The name, even the concept of this Papa Legba is just the newest form, that has taken hold, but it's a much older entity than that. So about 2 years ago, right, I'm getting into the story now. About 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago? Either a year ago, it could have been about 2 years ago. I can't really remember right now, but maybe about almost 2 years ago. I was in a dream state, right? And it's funny because before even Papa Legba came along, I was having these encounters in the dream state with Voodoo, man. And me growing up, these things were around me, not within my family actively, but I had friends who their parents were deep into Santeria, which is basically, you could say, a type of Spanish form of Voodoo. My parents in this physical reality on my mother's side come from Birmingham, Alabama, so they grew up with, you know, a lot of stories I would hear about Hoodoo, you know, which is, you know, Voodoo is a religion, but Hoodoo is a little bit more kind of freestyle, and not to knock Hoodoo down. It's just as effective from those who've experienced its power, but, you know, it has its own things going on too. But they also work with Papa Legba and a lot of these spirits too. But to not to detract, so in this dream state, yeah, in a few dream states I had, there was one that came at me, and it was a woman, and I may have talked about this in a past video. She was like, she wanted me to work, she wanted to introduce me to her form of voodoo, which was known as, I think she called it the Germain voodoo, which, you know, is probably the family name of that entity or something, but she wanted to introduce it to me, and I was like, all right, well, cool. And the thing is, it was like a give and take. She wanted to know what I had, and she wanted to introduce to me what she knew. So it was like, you know, basically the conversation was like, well, I want to introduce you into this family of voodoo, which I practice, and in return, you teach me some of the things you know. And now, just to put a pause on this for a minute, give you something to think about. The earliest practitioners for any form of magic, whether it be witchcraft, whether it be voodoo, hoodoo, all these things, you have to question, where did the information come from? Where did they get this knowledge from? And, you know, everything comes from somewhere, you know. So a lot of people that say, well, you know, you gotta go get initiated. You gotta go to Haiti. You gotta go to these other places, Africa, Haiti. You have to be initiated by a mambo and all these things. Or you gotta see a Hugan. They tell you all these things and individuals you have to see to be initiated, you know, into the practice. But who did they learn? The ones that are initiating you, where did they learn this stuff from? You see? And it's a never-ending question. You know, it keeps going like, well, okay, well, if they learned it from this person, and this person learned it from that person, where did they learn it from? And you just keep going down. And I've said this in the past about other things. It really basically comes down to two answers. Either one, they pulled it from a higher power, aka God. Two, they pulled it, you know, from the spirits. I'll put them in the same category, that the spirits actually came through and taught it to them. Could have been their inner self, or it could be B. They're just making shit up. Now, either way, it doesn't matter. It still has effects, and these things are still just as powerful, whether they be made up or not. But the point is, where did they learn it from? And a lot of individuals, and this is going back into old practices now, even dating back to Native American times, even before that, going back thousands, if not millions of years. It always comes down to, where did you learn this from? And it's always pretty much the same answer. The spirits came through, we summoned them, and they taught us how to do these things. We learned it from the source. So, you know, okay, so back to the dream, right? So I'm in this dream state, and this woman, that's when it kicked it off. This woman trying to introduce me and bring me to this voodoo stuff. And, you know, it was a good experience. And when I woke up, the exchange, like, I had a lot of information about doing things which I guess some would class as, you know, a voodoo practice or a hoodoo type of thing, but that's another video. Anyway, so sometime after that, now I wasn't even into thinking about Papa Legba, none of this stuff, man. I had this dream experience, and there was this individual in the dream. He had a hat, he had a cane, and he had, how do I say, he was smoking a pipe. And when I saw this individual, you know, when you spend a lot of time in these non-physical realms, you could pretty much distinguish and differentiate between usual thought forms and others that completely stand out. And you know, they're like a step above the rest. And pretty much, I was like, well, who's that? And this other individual in the dream state was like, well, that's Papa Legba, man. And Papa Legba, Papa wants to talk to you. So I was like, you want to talk to me? So I went over to him, and he didn't say anything. He looked at me, and then he said, and then he did speak, and he was like, you have promise, you have talent. And I was like, okay. I was listening, I was being respectful, I was listening, and he goes, I want to work with you. And I thought, okay. And then he handed his pipe to me. So I already knew, like, you know, when you're in these other realms, you don't have to speak a lot. A lot of things you just understand what's going on. Words are not necessary. So he slowly handed me his pipe, and it was like an offering, you know. So I took the pipe and I smoked it. And I could only explain the experience as it was like, say for example, the most powerful weed or whatever you want to call it, you know, it was a powerful substance. And as soon as I took one hit, I was like, whoa, like within the dream state, it took me into like a whole nother realm of reality and experiences, and it felt every bit as real as anything I have on this side, but it was better. So I was like, oh, this is good shit, man. So we started talking, and that was the first stage. The next time I had another dream experience right after that, and it was of this giant snake. And once again, there was some other individuals saying that they wanted to work with me. And they pulled out this book, and it was like this book with all this like voodoo type and hoodoo things inside of it. And they were showing it to me, and it was like all these rituals and things and practices. And I thought, well, yeah, man, all right, this is cool. And that big snake played a part of it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe there is a serpent in the voodoo religion, on Dumbala, I believe. But once again, we're dealing with names and stuff, so these energies can take on any form as they want. But anyway, yeah, it was a giant serpent, giant snake, like a large python. It came to me. So all these things started happening, right? So now, catching up to speed with the modern story that I'm dealing with here. So, yeah, there was a lot of other things here and there that happened at that time that had to deal with connections to voodoo and hoodoo, and all these things were coming at me. And I took it as it was, you know. Not with a grain of salt. I mean, it had deep, profound meaning at that time, but, you know, I already have my own stuff going on, you know, my Sumari things and all that. But there was a connection point, which I'm going to get to in a minute, with the voodoo and the hoodoo and other spiritual practices and the Sumari and all these other things. So you catch up to now, right? So about a couple of weeks ago, when I put that photo up that I was talking about on Facebook, Papa Legba came at me again in a dream state, and I was like, what happened? He came to me again, same situation. He said, hey, it's me again, you know, you have promise, you have the talent, you have the skills, I would like to work with you. And this time it was a lot more deeper, because it was like, for me, I felt honored, because it was like, this energy wasn't coming to me as like, I want you to work with me, as in you have to give me tribute, you have to give me sacrifice, you have to do all these things to petition me. It was more of like an apprenticeship or something, if that makes sense to you. And the energy was basically reaching out to me saying, listen, you know, I'm interested. I have taken an interest in you and the things you're doing, and I would like you to learn more, you know, learn some things from me. And the feeling I was getting was, it wasn't about just join with me and worship me or do these kind of things and leave everything behind. It was more of, I respect what you're doing, and I think you could learn a lot more from, you know, you can learn a few tricks from me too, you know, because you gotta, okay, so now let's catch up, right? Now, you guys already know that I'm a Sumari, and I'm a Set as well. And, you know, when you get down into the gritty nitty of it and you go, I mean, you gotta really do your research and your homework. Basically, you look at the Sumari, the speakers, I'm a speaker as well, you look at the whole speaker thing, it all comes down to certain individuals that have these natural talents to go in and out of reality. We'll go to other realities. We open the doors, you know, we open the doors to other realities through stories, through, you know, using thought forms and forming stories that can help people bridge their consciousness through imagery into other realms of reality. The point I'm trying to make is that everything that makes up what Papa Legba stands for, you see the strong connections between the speakers and the Sumari, you know, these things. You know, Papa Legba is very playful. He's not like some evil force that just comes in. He's like, you know, whatever people want to portray it in Hollywood. But a lot of his skill set that makes that entity up what it is was basically a lot of the same similarities for what just multidimensional beings are in general, like the speakers, the set, the Sumari, and all these things. Opening the gateways, they're opening up the different worlds, being able to speak to all languages. Now, another point, just for people to think about, right? Because I've seen some, me doing research and looking at things, I've seen some people say, well, how could Papa Legba talk to this person? He's white, he doesn't know anything. Well, here come the contradictions, right? On one level, you say that Papa Legba speaks all languages on the planet, and in all realities, he has the keys. But yet, some individuals get mad if somebody from another nationality goes on and starts talking about Papa Legba. Oh, you don't know anything about Papa Legba, and you're not even an initiate, you're not even this. Now, wait a minute. Hold up a minute. You say that Papa Legba speaks to all. So what does that mean? I'm going to tell you what it means from my end of the spectrum. Papa Legba is it's an entity, a conscious entity that no one knows when it was created or why, but it's still just as potent. And all the things that it's said to have, its abilities, the door opener, the key to the way, it's all true. But you got to remember though, if this energy speaks to all languages, it should be able to, because it's a multidimensional being. It's outside of our realm of physical reality. So quite naturally, it will appear to other individuals in whatever guise that will be most impressionable. And this taps in a lot to when people have so-called visions or spirits or entities come to them. They say, well, I saw an angel, I saw this. A lot of people say, well, why is it always got to be an angel? Why is it always got to be something like that? I'll give you the answer to that right now. It's because in this reality, that is the only thing, well, not only, but for most individuals, those are the most impressionable. And for the individual's consciousness to break through certain barriers, a lot of forces have to make themselves known through whatever guise that will have the most impression on the individual. So, for example, if you're a strong, devout Christian, you're not going to get a Papa Legba. It might come to you as Saint Anthony, which is some of these corresponding saints with a lot of the Voodoo pantheon. But, if you're a hardcore Satanist, you're not going to get Muhammad, the prophet. I mean, these are just things that it's going to come to you, whatever has the most impact, is what I'm trying to say. So, Papa Legba came to me as a form that has the most impact on me. A multidimensional being. It didn't have the imagery that is associated with Papa Legba, but pretty much Papa Legba knew that what I'm interested in my own things, and things that I'm trying to help others do as far as opening doors, going into other realities, that's what Papa Legba does. So now, this Papa Legba energy form, consciousness came to me again. And it was the same deal. I want to work with you, took an interest. All right, said all that a few minutes ago. So that week, it was like, all right, this energy is really trying to get at me, man. So I'm on the internet looking at Amazon, something completely unrelated to Voodoo and all that kind of stuff. And this picture popped up, and it was something unrelated. And it was like this image of, you have this TV show, right? American Horror Story. They have different seasons. It was the one Covenant, which dealt with witches and voodoo. And I think it had Angela Bassett and a lot of other people. I think Angela Bassett was portrayed as Marie Laveau, which is famous, voodoo hoodoo practitioner from New Orleans. But in that drama, they had the Papa Legba image played by, what is his name? I forgot his name. I apologize. I really forgot his name. Was it Lance Riddick, I think? It was his brother that was in the Friends series, Agent Boyles. But anyway, I think it's Lance Riddick. Anyway, he came off as Papa Legba in the series, and you could look it up. Just type in American Horror Story, Papa Legba, and you see. Now, a lot of people got angry with this portrayal of Papa Legba because they felt that his appearance was more similar to Baron Samedi, which is another one of the Loire spirits. I think one of the Petro spirits, or you have to speak with him before dealing with the Petro. But anyway, you can look all that up yourself. You know, Baron Samedi is generally, how do we say, shown as an individual. He has like a top hat, he has a cane, he has a skull painted on his face, and you know, supposedly he used a lot of vulgar obscenities, and he's like strongly connected to sexual themes, and you know, all this kind of stuff, right? So in the drama, you know, regardless of whether they said it was his, see, there's the thing that people said, that's not Papa Legba, you know, because in the series, like, they were trying to, some people petitioned him to give them immortality. I think Angela Bassett she was like this voodoo queen, and basically she called on Papa Legba, she wanted to be immortal, so Papa Legba granted her immortality. In exchange, she had to give him services once a year, no refusal, and that was pretty much, she had to give him like an innocent life, things like a newborn baby once a year and things. Now a lot of people got mad about that. That's not Papa Legba, he doesn't do all that. But you got to remember too, man, we're dealing with television. Of course, TV is always going to make a spin on things to spice it up and make it more interesting. It could also be a play on, maybe they didn't want to give an exact portrayal of Papa Legba, because maybe even doing that, people would have complained and got mad at that, you know. So they probably just mix it up a bit, you know, to keep it interesting. Either way, you see his image on the internet, he looked fucking cool. You know, the Lance really played that role pretty good, even if it was just for a short couple of episodes, but he looked cool as hell. He had a little top hat, some dreadlocks and shit. You know. Now the point of me bringing that up is that image, speaking on the most impressionable images, right? That image impressed me. So I thought, wow, that looks fucking cool when I saw it, you know? And I was like, yeah, if there was a Papa Legba, that's what I would imagine to be like. So quite naturally, that's the image that came to me. Now, so that week, I'm on the internet looking at stuff, and this image, now all that's way behind me. I'm not even thinking about Lance Reddick, American Horror Story, none of that. It's all behind me. I'm on the internet on Amazon Japan, and I make an accident and hit this thing, and this picture popped up of this doll. And I was like, oh man, what the fuck is that? I thought it was like a replica of, or something connected to American Horror Story. I was like, oh, that looks like Papa Legba, man. That was in that drama. And you can see the picture of the doll on the internet, had little dreadlocks, little top hat with a skull and stuff. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's something I would like to have in my house. But it was like way overblown expensive. It was like $152.86. I was like, well, I can't pay that. But so I turned the computer off, and I was like, well, that was cool. That was interesting. Then it was like I had another dream. You know, the Papa Legba energy came at me again. I was like, man, this thing's really getting at me. And I play everything by feeling. You know, if it feels right, it'll come at me. You know what I'm saying? So, and if it's meant to be, it's gonna come at me. You know, so I don't stress things. You know, in life, that's how it is. If it's really meant to happen, it's gonna happen. So I went to this store. That day. So I'm chilling. After I see on the internet, I said, man, that was cool. I really want that doll. And I was like, well, you know me, I'm a collector. If I had one, I wouldn't be happy. I would need to have two. One to have open that I could touch and look at, another one that'll be closed and boxed up on display. So I go out, I'm starting getting these voices in the head. Here comes the voice, you need to go to this store, man. Now, mind you, I'm in Japan, man, so like finding shit like that just on the fly ain't gonna happen. Now, you see my last videos where when the voice talks, it tells me what to do, where to go. I gotta listen because it's always on point. So I'm chilling in the house. I need to go out to this store, man. Check this out. So I was like, really? I mean, what are the chances of me finding that doll, you know, like in Japan in some store, man? Like the doll was made like back in 2000 or 2003. It's like very rare to find, hard to find. So I was like, man, that's kind of snazzy. I know I've been on fire lately, but to find that, that'll really be like something, man, you know? So, of course, here comes the inner self. Well, we're going to show you what it's like. We're going to impress you. So I get up, I go to the store. I'm like, all right. So I'm looking in this one store, and I'm like, all right, there's nothing here, man. I was in this store the day before. I even had the idea to look for anything, and there was nothing there, the same area I was in. So I left the store. Voice was like, yo, you need to go back. I was like, go back? There's nothing there. I was like, no, trust me, go back. So in my head, I'm like, all right, you know, you're always on point. Let me go back. So I'm looking around. It's like bottom shelf. So all right. So you know me, when I get these kind of moments, just like that bookstore I told you, my heart starts getting like, oh man, is this really gonna be here? Because like, what are the chances of that, man? It's exciting. Well, what do you know? There goes the doll that looks like Papa Legba. Or if you want to say Barone Sumari, doesn't matter. Either way, this is what I found, and with the images for me in my head. And it's funny because like before I left, I was like, well, I know this is not the typical portrayal of Papa Legba, but if I found two, I was role playing in my head, having fun. I was like, shit, if I found two, then I have like one would represent Papa Legba and the other one would represent Barone Sumari, you know, if I could get two, but that's like impossible. Well, never say never, man, because what happens? There was one doll, and that one was open. Because it was like the package said it's already been opened, and I was like, oh man, all right, cool. And it was a very, very, very cheap price compared to what I see on the internet. And I found one, so I'm getting ready to walk away. And my voice said, well, shit, why settle for just one? You might as well take the other one. I was like, what you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what you talking about, Willis? You know, going back, different strokes. If you don't know, it was a TV show back in the 80s. I'm like, what you talking about, man, too? And it was like, move that box. And it was another one, brand new, sealed, unopened. So you know me, I was like, you know, tap dancing and shit in the dial. I picked them both up, went and got them home, man, you know. And that comes up to the picture on the internet with Sumari, you know, and that's a whole other story. But you know, basically the energy was like, you need to get the snake out, put the snake on the door, and all these things. That's some other story. But the point of this whole video is that these energies, when energy wants to work with you, it will connect with you. And you have to look beyond the stereotyped images. You know, it's like whether or not people would argue and say, well, that doll is not the exact, you know, representation of what Papa Legba should look like and this and that. It doesn't really matter, because it really comes down to what is the symbology to you, you know, and what does it feel to you? Now, Papa Legba and all these entities, they're all shapeshifters anyway. They're tricksters, they're shapeshifters, and they can take on whatever form they want. So it's not a stretch to say, well, this can represent anything, can represent anything you want it to represent. It doesn't matter. At the end of if another person looks at it and says, that's not what Papa Legba is, what does it matter to you? What matters is, what is the representation to the individual that believes it? Now, yeah, so basically, yeah, these energies, when they want to work with you, they make themselves known to you, man. You don't have to really, like, I know a lot of individuals, like, they want to get deep into this, and, you know, they travel down to Haiti, they want to get initiated, and that could be a beautiful experience, or it could be a trap, and you end up paying out, like, you know, $3,000, and you get nothing out of it. But at the end of the day, you got to remember, like, from the level of things that I'm working with, I've been on this trip for, like, you know, a while. Things come at me differently. Like, I don't think about doing all, like, oh, I need to go get, you know, $5,000 now and take a trip and go and get initiated. Like, I don't think that way, you know. It's like, if the energies want to you know, display or show things to me, they just show things to me, you know, because I have a different understanding with consciousness, if you want to call it the spirits, or whatever names you want to use. I have a whole different understanding with them. It's like we're on a level playing field, you know, like where there's no hierarchies. We're all balanced out. And it really comes down to, like, they recognize what I'm going through, I recognize what they're going through, and it's more like a mutual benefit for both sides, you know. It's like, well, we want to show you, if you're interested and willing to learn, we will show you these things. And of course, they get benefits from working, you know, with individuals on this side. All realities are connected, you know. From this side of reality, here in the physical, we call that side the spiritual world, the dream world. And from their side of reality, they're just as interested in us. Why do you think, you say you have all these spirits, right? And they're in these other realms, the higher realms, the angelic realms, but every time we turn around, they're trying to get at us on this side. And it's very simple. Why? Because all realms are connected. You know, they say, as above, so below. All right, that could be true, but I like to say, as within, so without. You know, whatever's going on within yourself or within these other realms in the inner reality, the same thing happens in outer reality. So, you know, you have to think about that. And I'm coming at it from a completely different angle as well. Like, you know, a lot of people who petition the Loa, petition these spirits, not all, of course I'm not saying all, but some individuals is like they're very selfish. They only come at them when they want something. It's like, oh, I really want to get this job. I really want to do this. I really want to do that. I'm not coming at this from an angle wanting anything like materialistic. I want knowledge. I want power. I want understanding. And this is why certain energies take interest in certain individuals. You know, I don't give a rat's ass about I really want to get this position, or I really want to get some money. I really want to get this and get that. All those things are nice, but, you know, for me on my journey as being a speaker, as being a Sumari, as being a set, and even more important, just being an individualist, a multidimensional being, if any energy, if any consciousness, any form of power or energy has knowledge that I don't know, I want to know it, you know, and I will connect on that level, however it may be, you know. And when I say learn things, I'm not saying like I'm actually sitting in a room and this form is in front of me telling me use these things and mix this up in a pot and make this potion. All this information comes to you as just a deep understanding. It's all intuitive. So you just know how to do things. It's like, I gotta go in a few minutes. I don't really have time to get into this, man, but really briefly, like I went out recently, right? We had some school event. And afterwards, we went to a party. I went to a party with this French guy. He was cool. And, you know, he was like, oh, man, how do you do this? Oh, you meet all these women and this and that. And at some part in the night, you know, you know, I don't drink alcohol at all, but I can if I want to. You know, I don't lose my shit. I can hold my liquor, but I'm not really a drinker. But we started having some drinks. And at some point, I was just like, look, man, I went into like super multi-dimensional. I was like, look, man, you really want to know what's going on and how I could talk to all these people? There's no magic to it. Well, there is, but it's not what you think it is. You just go, oh, well, how do I say this? How do I say? You don't have to do any of that. There's no pickup line. There's no master, you know, thesis to all of this, man. It really is. It comes down to, if you have a deep understanding of what you are, you know how to deal with other individuals, whether that may be women, men, anybody. You know how to deal with them because you see patterns, you know. And long story short, wherever we was in this bar, he wanted to talk to some people, and I pretty much was laying out how the whole night was gonna be. I was like, nah, man, don't do that. You stay right here, chill, this and that, boom, 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 and I guarantee you in an hour, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. It all happened exactly how I said it. He was like, oh shit, how'd you know that? How'd you know this was gonna happen? And, you know, on one level, I want to be like, it's all in the magic, man. But, you know, I don't know if he was ready for that or not. But, you know, like I was saying, it really comes down to gateways. Coming back to Papa Legba, you see the gateways, man. When you've been in this as long as I have, and you've gone through the experiences I have, everything's a gateway. Everything's a door that needs to be opened. And when you step out of the linear concept of time and you see things from the multi-dimensional standpoint and viewpoint, you see all possibilities that could happen. You know that if you stand right here and set your drink down and turn it to the left or right, that girl's gonna notice you. She's gonna walk over. You know, if you go to the bathroom at this time and stop on the dance floor for half a second and then keep walking, this person here is gonna notice you. It's all connected, man. So, you know, all this shit is connected, you know. So on one level, from the, you know, the non-experienced individual who's not into any of it, they're gonna think, yo, he's the man, he's bagging women, he's doing this, and it's not even about any of that, man. It's really all coming down to probabilities, the ability to see probabilities and what probabilities will get certain, you know, what do you say, actions. You know, if you do certain things will happen, you know. And that's the basis of magic, pretty much, you know, getting things to happen for you without really doing work, you know, to try to get it, you know, physically. You just do things from you know what I'm saying, man. I can't get, it's too heavy to get into. But anyway, so I gotta go, man. I gotta get ready. But that was just my little video on my old Papa Legba stuff, man. Like I said, you guys, you do your own research, man. I'm not the Papa Legba specialist, and I don't want to be. You know, all I know is this energy form came at me as how it presented itself, and it was enough to impress me. And you know, and had me find the little dolls and all that, and now they're in my room chilling, you know, and that's my connection. And it's not like I'm sitting down giving tribute, I'm doing all these stuff, sacrifices, or I'm not saying Papa Legba won't sacrifice, but giving treats and, you know, gifts. It's the doll represents the connection I have with this entity, and a lot of other interesting things have been happening. Speaking about that night in that party, you know, I saw a whole lot more doorways opened up, man. But that's about it. I gotta get ready. I'll talk to y'all later, man. Much love to everybody. Sumari to everybody out there. It's brother Set right here. And yeah, we'll pick back up soon. Love you guys. Later.